Hello, and thank you so much for taking the time to be here. I'm really happy to welcome Nico and Julia. So Nico has come this morning all the way from Bordeaux and will depart to Amsterdam tomorrow where he lives, and is taking the time to be here with us to share his experience as an entrepreneur and as an advisor to other entrepreneurs. And Julia has come all the way from Montpellier in the south of France to be with us today. And she will share her experience in the educational field in UNESCO. And we're really happy to be here and to be with all of you to inquire a little bit more what it takes to be able to change things in the world to the extent that we can, and also to see to which and to question to which extent there's some things we can change and maybe there's some things that we will not be able to change, and that's okay, and to see what are the kind of changes we can make happen in the world and what are the kind of skill or knowledge that we require to be able to do so. So to get started, we discussed a little bit with Nico and Julia, and we decided we would start with very practical examples in our own lives, diving back into what was the driver that make us take a certain direction and why we wanted to go in that direction, and also what were the tools and the skills we needed to be able to move forwards and try to make a change. So I'm going to ask you if that's okay for you to share a little bit your experience and to share these turning points and maybe the directions in which it led you. Would you like to start?
1, 2. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm happy to start. I'm very happy to be here with you. I was taking part in a youth summit over 10 years ago, and it feels really nice to be back. I also heard about this unique place many times, and this is the first time I've only seen it for 10 minutes, but I'm looking forward to spending the evening and exploring around. Perhaps to answer your question, Devapriyan, I'd like to say that when I finished school, I was completely lost in terms of which direction I wanted to go in life. And I was very privileged that I could spend a year volunteering in the German ashram at the Hof Herrenberg. And that experience opened many doors. For me, what I learned there about organic agriculture, I then used when I came back to my hometown to start a business. And that in and of itself also opened a number of doors. And yeah, 3 years ago, that brought me to Amsterdam, where I live now. And what was the trigger point? There is a lot said lately about purpose. I think purpose is kind of a buzzword professionally, but also personally. What is your personal purpose, or what is your organization's purpose? And I heard something a while ago that really resonated with me, and that is that your purpose is your pain. And what that means is that for many of us, something that hurt at some point is what we are able to then turn into our purpose in helping solve some kind of problem so that other people don't experience it, or so that others go better with it. So I wanted to share that because for me, growing up, I didn't realize how painful experiences could then be turned into something really productive, even at the professional level, and something that would help others. So that was my trigger point, my own pain. That's what gave me the curiosity. Sorry? What I do? Yes, so the company that I started, we create community gardens for municipalities and for companies. So if you have an open space in a city that is dead, let's say, we turn that into life by creating spaces where people can grow vegetables and by making cities more green. And for the last 3 years in Amsterdam, I've been supporting organizations in measuring their impact. So helping companies measure the impact that they have on people and the planet. You usually know what your numbers are financially as a company, but we typically don't put a number or objectives to the good that we're doing to people and to the environment. So that's what I've also been helping companies do. And I'm happy to share more about it with whoever is curious.
Thank you. Julia, would you tell us a little bit about yourself, your turning points, and what you're up to these days?
Sure. Yeah. Well, hi everyone. So I work for. Well, I'm self-employed at the moment, and it's been going on for maybe 10 years now. But I work in the field of international cooperation. That means that countries working together on different fields, different programs, different projects, and that can be within the framework of governments agreements, that can be within the framework of United Nations programs. So all that sort of programs, and I specialize in the sector of education. So I'm specialized in education and training, and I work for different organizations abroad. And so at the moment, I work for IAEP UNESCO as a consultant, and I've been working with different types of organizations, sometimes NGOs, nonprofit, sometimes social civil society organizations, associations, that sort of things, institutions, sometimes international organizations like United Nations. And so what I've been doing is basically look at training programs, how to enhance them, how to design, evaluate, facilitate training, but also how to improve competences of people working in the ministries of education in different countries. There are a couple of pictures that I've added. So just to give you a look, so that's just to show you some of the great, moments that I've been able. I was fortunate to be involved in at different stages, different jobs. So when I was working for an NGO that worked specifically in Palestine, Lebanon, Jordan, and Nigeria, and I worked a lot with Palestinian children. And I would, go to East Jerusalem or some other places, or in Lebanon, and look at the training centers and education centers there, and try to assess how the centers were working, how we could improve things. And then the other pictures, that's from last year, actually, with UNESCO. So I was facilitating workshops with people from the Ministry of Education here in Senegal and in Burundi. And so part of my job is also for UNESCO is to provide training and to provide guidance on different topics for people working at the ministries of education. So just to give you a short overview or a peek of my activities, how they can look like. And it's a bit, that's an environment and a sector that I had no idea existed until I learned it existed. And that was my turning point. It was a bit like Nico was saying. I was fortunate enough I decided to go and spend a year living in India. And I got involved in, some of the projects of Amachi Labs. Maybe you've heard of Amachi Labs from Amrita University. And I got, involved in a project working with underprivileged women in rural areas, and trying to provide trainings to them, etc. And that got me thinking, oh, I really like that, and that's really interesting. And I had no idea that could be, that was something that existed. And so I already had a bachelor at that point, but I was kind of taking some time off. And so I decided to go back and do a master's degree in that particular field, so international cooperation in education. And that's what started then my professional life. So yeah.
Thanks so much. And to bring a complementary view, so from my side, I've spent most of my teenage years in the countryside of Paris, and at the edge between the urban area and the countryside, at this junction where the city meets the countryside. And that's often especially in France, where for many years there was not so much of a design and the thinking of these meeting spaces. That's often a weird space, right? Because you still have bits of city, but it's not really a city. And then you have a little bit left of the countryside, but it's not really the countryside. They call it peri-urban. It's somewhere in between. And in many parts of France, it's almost the same, because that's where you have the big commercial centers and the little houses that all look the same. And the countryside is not really a countryside anymore. So that growing there and spending my teenage years there, I felt there was something in me that was, it doesn't really work. Like there's something weird happening here, this kind of questioning inside. And then I think at one point, I remember I was going to high school. So we can move to the next pictures. So that's where I work, actually. And I like this photo because you see really well, there's the fields, the countryside, and then there's a nice little village that's called Voilan. And then you have the city, Les Ulysses, Massy-Palaiseau in the back. And I think that's really the story of my teenage years, in between these spaces, always back and forth between these different kind of spaces. And that's what created this tension, that there was a quality in the countryside and in nature that I really liked. And then this quality was challenged by the city developments and everything. And it created this kind of tension that I was trying to solve in a way. And I remember one day I was taking my bicycle. So I was going from the countryside to the city to go to high school. And I was pushing on the wheels of my bicycle, and I was kind of yelling at myself internally, I want to be alive, I want to be alive, I want to be alive. Because I had the feeling that everything that was offered by society was little boxes that I had to fit in, that were prepared for me, but that were not me. And there was really this strong thing inside that I didn't want to fit in one of these boxes. I wanted to find what was really my journey and my purpose in life. And so this impression came at that time, but it stuck with me for quite a while. And it came back in a stronger way when I was in engineering school. And then I was doing urban design. And basically at that time, now I think it changed a little bit, but at that time, urban design was only about cities. We wouldn't really care about agriculture or nature or everything. We just plan the city. And then what happens with the rest is whatever. And the first 2 years were really a struggle, because I'm not a city guy, and I wouldn't see myself spending my life designing subways or roads or something like that. It was quite painful. This idea was really actually a pain, to come back to what you were saying, Nico. It was really suffering to have that perspective in mind. And then at some point, but it's crazy, it took me 2 years to even have the idea. At some point, the idea came, but the skills that I have, I don't have to use them for what they tell me I have to use them for. Maybe I can find another way to use these skills for something that I believe in. And what I felt closer to was agriculture and nature. And so I started looking if there were some institutions or some people that were doing this kind of a work. And there was one NGO in France that was doing this work. And then I started working with them and developing this field. But I think it goes very well what you both were saying. So I'm pretty excited by the rest of the discussion. Maybe there's a possibility that we discuss a little bit further amongst ourselves. But maybe there's some questions, and maybe before we move to the questions, I didn't say what I'm doing now. So I'm running a nonprofit that works with farmers and local communities. And we develop basically local food products, and we develop agroecology. So we plant trees, we plant hedges with the farmers, and we also conduct applied research projects, bridging research and the local communities, the farmers. And we have been supported by European funding since 2015, so that we can, with European money, we can basically support a lot of local development projects by a lot of different people around us, like farmers, cities, NGOs. So we can fund all these people so that they can start their own projects. And that's really my passion now, is how do you help people get passionate about something? And then once they're passionate about it, how do you help them get the skills required so that they can actually start something and go to the end of it and make a change? in the landscape where they live. So first, do we have some introductory questions more on maybe the experience that was shared? And that can, yeah. The mic is coming.
So it's more of like a question for the three of you, and you choose whether you can answer it or you want to answer it. It's for someone who doesn't have experience on like who doesn't know the EU process or like where to get these kinds of opportunities. Can you tell us if we want to do these things that you're doing right now, or like if it's something that we want to pursue in a few years? How do we get the resources, or how did for each one of you, how did you start building your how did you start building your job right now, or where you're at right now?
Oh, 1 minute per, no? You want to start, Julie?
Sure. Thank you. That's a very interesting question. I think for me, I started studying after high school. I had no idea what I wanted to do, but I went with what I was good at and what I liked. So I liked languages, and I liked to travel and to be in international settings. So I started and I did the bachelor degree. And I think the diploma is not that important. What's important is that it gave me something, and then with that, I was able to build and to get a job in another country, and then build some experience, and then try something else, and then something else. Another opportunity came up, and I followed that. And so I think looking back, I realized how much I was really connected to what felt right for me. So it was not an intellectual process for me. It was just, okay, I'm going to try things, and then whatever works, if I'm good at it and I enjoy it, then I can pursue it. So I would say openness is important to be able to, be connected to what we feel, but also to be connected to opportunities that come our way and be able to grab them. And also hard work, like dedication. Like once you find something and you like it, then if you work for it, then other opportunities will come up. So I don't know if it's an advice or whatever, but for me, that's what happened. It was not an intellectual process. It was more, okay, I'm going to try out things. So I would encourage to try things and to, maybe travel or whatever forms, whatever shape it takes for you, but to just try.
If anyone here has an idea for a project that you want to bring to life, or a change, or some kind of new organization that you want to create, something like that, you mentioned where do you find the resources. One thing to know is that there's this sector in the economy called philanthropy, which is individuals that have a lot of money and they don't know what to do with it. And they need things to do with their money that somehow contribute to the betterment of society. So that's one place to look, so often overlooked if you're just getting started. You don't know that these things exist, but these organizations, or these organizations that are created to manage the funding of a family, for instance. So that's a good place to start. But then in terms of gaining experience, I mentioned in passing that I did volunteering for a year at Ammas Ashram in Germany. But I didn't do enough advertisement to what enabled that, which was a program from the European Union called European Solidarity Corps. And I'll say it again, European Solidarity Corps, because it's the greatest, in my opinion, opportunity that any, especially European people, can get to live for 3 to 12 months abroad. 3 to 6? 6 to 12, thank you. Abroad, working on a project that has something to do with the priorities of the European Union and, social or environmental challenges. And yeah, it's for free. You learn a foreign language. I recommend that to absolutely everyone who is not sure, needs a change in direction or needs some experience, because when I did that, I had nothing to put on my CV, nothing. So that was the start. But also I really like what you shared, because before doing that, you do need to cultivate some self-awareness and like you said, having the time to go inside and really understand what you're looking for, what you want, and then putting the hard work towards the right thing.
Thanks a lot. I think regarding the question of how do you learn about the schemes and everything, I mean, there's a lot of schemes of the European Union, especially on a lot of different fields. And there's some people that are specialized in the fundings themselves, but that's a very small fraction of people. And most of the people, they are just active with the project, and then they want to fund these projects. And it happens that there's many areas where you have European fundings and where you can mobilize these fundings, but it's more, I think it comes more from the project and from the drive that you have than just saying, I want to do this kind of funding and I'm going to specialize in this. It's more, I want to implement this kind of action. I want to have this impact on the world. And then when I know what is the drive that pushes me, I will find the toolbox that enables me to get this happen. And the toolbox is relational capabilities. The toolbox is skills to work on the computer eventually, or to build things by yourself. And the toolbox will be how to raise money. And raising money can come from philanthropy, but it also, of course, can come from fundings, and especially European fundings. I think here, for me, how things have gone, I think it really comes back to what Julia has come. It comes from a drive. The first European funding I've been working with was actually during my engineering school to build a bee house here in the center. And it was a crazy experience because I was still a student, so I was used to have student projects, when you work on a topic and then you give your paper at the end and you get a grade. And this time, my teacher, she was a very smart teacher on European policies, and it was a very theoretical course on the European institutions and everything. And then she saw me coming with this project, and she said, okay, this is your project. Your grade is going to be your European project. So I actually had to apply for the European funding. And the final thing I had to submit was not a report on something, was the application to the European funding. She was very smart, and I got passionate about it. I spent way more hours than all of my colleagues, but I learned also way more than anything that they learned. And then it happened that the application was successful, and then we built the bee house here. And that got me the feeling of what it can enable when you go for a funding like this. Because then I saw the concrete outcome, and the bee house was built. And more than that, actually, the European schemes, they're sometimes a little bit painful because you have to have a lot of paperwork and everything, but they're also often very smart in the way they're designed, because they oftentimes really oblige you to work with others and to go deeper in the thinking of how you're going to work with others, what you want to achieve and everything. And that's what happened with this project. And it was not only about building a bee house, it was also about building a community of young people to build a bee house and get them excited about it, and then get several teams explored in the process of building the bee house. And basically the main thing that stayed after this was not the bee house, even if it's still there and it's amazing and I still like it, but it was the community of people that came together to do that. And so, yeah. So behind the schemes and the money, there's often a whole other range of things that can be useful. Do we have other questions? Yeah.
So my question is also to all of you, and it is okay. So my question is also to all of you, and it is, how do you find the motivation or strength to actually start? because what I personally experience often is that I have lots of ideas and thoughts what I could do, and then I start to look things up and start to thinking about how I could do it, but then it like nothing really comes out of it, and it just fades away slowly, and I have all these great plans, but I don't really start them. So I'm wondering if you have some tips on that.
Thank you. I think that's a very useful question for everyone here, really. I would say what I learned in the last year is if that idea is important enough for you, find accountability partners. So find friends or new friends or neighbors or who will somehow hold you accountable that you will make progress on it, or or people who have achieved whatever you're trying to achieve or have made progress in that on that path, and then find some kind of way to spend time with them, because there is this old saying that we are the average of the 5 people that we spend more time with. And I think that applies as well to things that you want to bring about in the world. And it's really easy to find the motivation if everyone around you, if it's the normal in the people that you're surrounded by, that they have the motivation to, or that they're doing that kind of thing already.
I was thinking of your question. It's I would feel a very common challenge for everybody. From my personal experience, I think I've come back a bit from it, because I realized that for me, thinking like what you said, thinking like that was actually the result of me putting pressure on myself to achieve a lot. And so by switching a bit how I view things, I realized maybe I can achieve less. So even if I have a lot of ideas, not every idea has to happen. Sometimes you have tons of ideas, but only one will work, or only one will motivate you enough. So I think letting go of, not putting pressure on making every idea you have happen, that's already one big step in, how do you say? In sorting what will happen and what will come out, and where to focus your energy. Again, I think I think just an idea doesn't work, and we all have many ideas, but it also has to come back to what you are involved in and in the concrete. So if I don't know, if your job is to work in a library, but then you have a great idea about a business, but you have no concrete elements to start that business, so start that project. Whether you can, as Nico was saying, find people who will give you concrete advice or concrete resources to start, but you cannot just start from I feel from just an idea. I think you have to really be connected to something concrete. So I would feel just, to start things and to focus on what you can do in a concrete manner, like Dorian was saying about the beehive, and then that will grow from there. And also to not be pressured to make every single of your ideas happen. I think that's good also. I hope that helps.
I would go in the same line than Julia. I think it depends where things come from, in a way. Sometimes it's just your head that tells you, oh, it would be nice to do that, or you should do that. And now with time I've come to question a little bit this. You should. What is it that I should? Why should I do it? Should I do it because it's going to be nice to my parents or to my teacher or to this person that I like? But am I doing it because I feel I have to do it to look nice in their eyes? Or am I doing it because I really feel a drive of doing it? And things that you really feel a drive for doing, oftentimes they bring you a lot of satisfaction at the end. And things that you do because you feel you have to do it. And it's very funny because in many cases, actually, the people you think wanted you to do it, they don't even wanted you to do anything. It's just we put ourselves pressures to do things just by ourselves. But then when it comes from your guts or from your heart, when it comes from within, oftentimes it brings you an amazing reward afterwards when you see things happening. Like we have this project going on with Apprenti d'Auteuil that's also sponsored by the European Commission. And because they were really happy about the project here, they told us whether we can host one of the young volunteers that is coming for activities here for a week for an internship, because otherwise she would have lost a curriculum of studies. And it was a little bit crazy to say yes, but I really love this girl. She's really like super sweet. So we said yes, and she's around this week. And it was crazy to do it, because that's one thing on top of all the other things to do. But since it resonates, then it's possible, and you find the resource to do it. And when I met her yesterday after the first day of work, she was so happy being in the garden with Jean-Pierre the whole day. And it was really a lot of satisfaction, you know. And then when this satisfaction builds up over time, it gives you confidence, and it creates also discernment into where you know that you can do, even if it seems completely unreasonable sometimes. And the things that will maybe not work out. But I think we have some further comments here. So I will stop.
No, it was just to complement some of our answers. Again, I go back to trying things and trying in small steps. Like if you have a great idea, open a bakery. But then waking up every morning at 3 is difficult. Then maybe that's part of the job, and that's part of the big idea. So if parts of the projects, if you try little things that are part of the projects in the bigger picture, then you can also see, oh, is it just like a fantasy? Is it something I would like to do, or is it really something that motivates me and gives me joy? And actually, if it is the second, then waking up at 3 will be pleasurable and will bring you a lot of happiness, and then it will help you get more motivation and get more into the projects itself. So again, I would say go to the concrete and try things, and try small, and then you'll see from there, really.
In the startup world, we call this fail fast, fail cheap. So you will most likely fail if you want to achieve something very difficult, you'll most likely fail. But can you, instead of opening a bakery, look for a mobile app that allows you to sell bread that you make to your neighbors? And you know that has a very, and then you'll find out if you like it enough or not. I really wanted to react to something that you said at the beginning, with regards to feeling that you should do something. And I just wanted to share, there's this book called Nonviolent Communication. Is I think something quite, I see some heads nodding. If you haven't read the book, the most important takeaway in it for me is applying nonviolent communication first to myself and to my head by removing should and have to from my vocabulary. So, and yeah, sometimes you have these ideas for things you want to do, but do you actually want to do them? Is it coming from a deep inner drive or instinct, or does your mind think you should do it?
And yet, I would also like to add, because now it's a little bit like everything is nice and everything is easy, what we're saying. I also want to say that once you've chosen something and you decided, you question your mind, your heart, your guts, and you say, okay, do I go or do I not go? Once you've chosen, then you go to the end. Because always there's going to be some days where you're tired, some days where you don't want to do something. And once you start, then you go to the end. Or at some point you really sit down with yourself and you decide to stop, which is completely fine. But if you go for it, then you go for it. And then if you stop, you decide to stop. But try to be sincere and engaged with what you do once you decide that you do it. Okay. I think we could go on for a while, but we have a second part to our discussion. So maybe I would open the floor to the second part, and then we can also still bring back questions on the first part. The idea of the second part was more to go, it's a little bit into your question, Winona, is when this desire came to do to work in the educational field or to work with entrepreneurs and to set up your green business, what did you feel you needed to be able to do that? What kind of resources, what kind of skills, what kind of changes needed to happen inside of yourself so that you felt you would be in a position where you could deliver on the things, and how did you equip yourself to be ready for this and to learn, to start this learning journey so that you would be able to actually implement these things. Whoever wants to start.
Thank you for the question. I can start by thinking collectively about the skill of resourcefulness, which obviously is very important if you want to create anything, and that could be an organization or a business. And I would ask you a question, which is, do you feel that you grew up, that your upbringing was privileged? I think if I ask that question, everyone has more or less an answer, and that could be because of the resources that your family had, or because of the love that you were giving, which is also quite relative, of course, or subjective. But I think more or less everyone has an answer if they had a privileged upbringing or not. If the answer is no, then I think you're naturally engineered to be resourceful, and to find resources around you. So maybe a thing is to find ways to cultivate your courage and your self-confidence to actually jump into it, because you will probably find a way. But for those of you, and I mean, I've experienced both things, I guess, but if we feel that we have had a privileged upbringing or teenage years, then a good thing to develop resourcefulness, I think, is to put yourself in an uncomfortable situation where you have to face some sort of scarcity. And that could be moving abroad to a country where you don't know the language, and then you have to find new ways to make friends or to take the bus. Or it could be moving to a country where, let's say, the purchasing power or the economic development is not as much as in your country, and then you have to find ways to help people there, or help bring about resources. I think that's a way to develop resourcefulness. That's the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah. I didn't think of this, but yes, indeed. I was thinking more in terms of being able to network. I thought, looking back, I think this is something that is not taught in school, for instance, or in formalized curriculum for any type of training, but actually plays a lot of, a big part in your professional development. So not saying that you need to have connections and that everything is just about connections, but it is important to be able to meet new people and find common grounds with the people and try to find, new contacts, develop the contacts, because those contacts can then help you, professionally, personally, etc. So I think, developing the ability to network in that sense of, developing connections, that's an important one. I would also say curiosity, to be able to be interested in new things, because new things will bring you new skills and bring you to, new settings and to new projects, etc. So yeah, definitely. I mean, if we talk about, personal values or personal skills, yeah, I would say curiosity as well.
For me, when I heard the question about how do you mobilize the fundings and everything, the question that came is the word that came in my head was you have to go hunting. It's like there's always been, when there's this drive, and when you settle for a drive inside of yourself, then you just go hunting for whatever you need, and it's going to be different every time. And for me, it's really been this, like when this idea came, oh, maybe I cannot build cities, but I can work for the nature around cities. There was no job offer on that subject, nothing. So I had to go hunting. And then I looked on the internet for hours for the NGO or body that would propose this. And then I found this NGO that was coordinating what cities who were interested in their agriculture, and so started working with them. And then I started working with this very specific NGO in a local in this area that we saw on the image. And then there was nothing there. We had no budget, no structure, nothing, and we had to create everything. So you just have to figure out what is the next step you want to do. You have a very long-term objective. You have this drive that you want to go in that direction. Like you want to help with education for people who don't have good education. But then you have to find what is the reasonable step that you can take, or not so reasonable, but at least achievable by yourself in this stage. And then go hunt for the resources that you need to achieve this first step. And it can be network, it can be people, it can be very concrete skills, like how to use Excel, or how to use a PowerPoint or AI, so that you can build the reports that will get you the funding, and then you can start having some money to get going. Or it can be very concrete skills that maybe you need to build a toilet for people, and you need to know plumbing and brick making so that you can build your toilet. But figure out where you want to go, and from where you want to go, what are the things you need so that you can go at least to this first step. And then once you've done the first step, then you figure out whether it made you happy or not, and whether it makes sense. And if it makes sense, then you figure out what is the second step, or maybe what are the 10 other steps that you want to take, and you figure out whether you need for them. And then you go hunting for answers. And I was very touched. A few months back, Kwani Kirkwani from UNESCO was here, and he was sharing his experience. He was a refugee in South Sudan, and now he works in the UNESCO headquarters in Paris, and is in charge of one of the main programs there. And he was saying he was really encouraging the youth he was talking to just don't hesitate to ask other people. He was saying it's fine if you don't know. It's fine if you don't have the mastery of everything. Just if you don't know and you need help, just ask for help, and just find people that can provide this help.
Thank you. Can I react to curiosity and networking?
Can someone try to fix the light?
Party mode. Nice. Thank you.
Much better.
What happened? It just started.
There was a little festival.
The party is tomorrow, no? There you go. Should we play some music?
Okay, let's try one more time.
I will ignore it for now. And I want to ask you a question, which is, if you could raise your hand if you've heard or are familiar with something called permaculture. Permaculture. Oh, everyone. Okay, so there may be other experts in the room, but there is a principle in permaculture which says, okay, maybe there is someone online who's not familiar with what permaculture is. It's a set of principles on how to design sustainable human settlements, or how to mimic nature, in some cases, to design human spaces or settlements. And there is this one principle which I really like, which says that the highest productivity of an ecosystem lies in the margins of the ecosystem, in the marginal. So for instance, if you have a field and then you have a forest next to it, you probably have most species and most biodiversity on the edge between the field and the forest. Any guesses why that could be the case? Why could it be that in the edge where the field and the forest, that there is where there is the most biodiversity, where there is, most species of mushrooms, where most different animals come, where most different plants are growing? Any guesses? I won't move forward until someone dares to guess. Okay, in that case, it's because the wind carries seeds, and when it reaches the forest, that slows down the wind and the seeds fall. So that's an example of this principle in practice, but it happens in many aspects of nature. And I found out that it happens also in the human world and in the professional world. And I found that sometimes the greatest opportunities and the greatest growth and abundance and resources are not in the mainstream, not where everyone goes, but somehow marginal. So I got this idea first time at an AYUDH summit from someone called Gopi Kalayil. He worked at Google, and he said that when he first moved to the United States from India, the first thing he did was to sign up to a public speaking club. Has anyone ever attended a public speaking club? It's a little bit weird, right? It's a little bit the public speaking freaks, like they come together and they it's a little bit scary, you know, if you are invited to a public speaking club one Friday evening. Well, turns out it's a fantastic way to meet interesting people who are also interested in self-development, for example. And so after that AYUDH summit, after hearing that, I did that. I signed up to the public speaking club. I ended up starting other clubs myself in other cities, and it opened many, many doors for me. And I've tried to keep this principle in mind whenever I'm a little bit afraid of going to the margins of something. And by the way, this is also an example of a very different way of spending your end of the year days, but also one that can be rewarding in very unexpected ways.
I think I have another question. Is we talked about changing things, but maybe is there an instance of somewhere where you really felt you could make an impact and you can make something happen? And is there an instance of somewhere of some time where it just didn't work and you couldn't make the impact or reach where you wanted to reach?
Well, I think in any job or any activity, you have objectives and then you have reality. And then your job is to strive to reach those objectives. Sometimes you can't. Personal examples, so personal experience, I work with people who work in ministries of education. So it's closely connected to the political environment of the country. And so if you know, you spend time as an organization, for instance, with UNESCO, training people, and then those people actually midterm, maybe, you know, there's some elections or there's something happens in the country and they can be changed and they change their job and then they're not in this position anymore. So you're basically training people, but sometimes, you know, they will not stay in function for a long time. So it feels a bit like, you know, having to redo things, or maybe you're training people, but then they're leaving. So in terms of capacity building of a specific ministry, it may seem, oh, it's a bit vain and it doesn't work, or it's hopeless. But I feel that, at least for me, I try to focus on the glass half full. And, you know, at least we've trained that many people, at least those people, you know, have new skills, and they will be able to make a difference. Or, you know, at least I did that. So at least I did that. And so my personal experiences, especially in my 20s, I had a time when I felt I was very focused when I was working. So when I was working, I was very engaged in what I was doing. You know, I was not thinking of other things or thinking of my evening plans, or I was really focused. And I think by being present, focused, and really loving what you do at the present moment, then I think you're able to achieve more, and you're able to focus on the good parts, or the glass half full of your job. So yeah, I don't know if that answered your question, but that's one thing.
By the way, I think in a moment we will gather in smaller circles and also share what each of our impact we want to have. So very curious to hear your answers. You can start thinking about them. I think the greatest positive impact I had was to help others believe that it was possible to make a living doing what we loved and improving our city. So to help my co-founders and my first employees to know that it was possible, even if it seemed not possible at the beginning. And the second part of the question, how about when change is not possible, or when it feels like we're not being able to have the impact? When you asked that, Devapriya, first thing I thought was about your professor in university that you mentioned that gave you the project of writing this European grant application. I thought, wow, there should be more teachers like that. Yeah, that they don't just assign you something meaningless essay or assignment, but to try to learn by doing something with actual impact in the world. And I think it's so important to look for these people, because sometimes it's not that we're in the wrong job, for instance, if we're in a job, but sometimes we're not following the right leader. So sometimes things are not working out because we're not surrounding ourselves or following the person who can help us get where we want to get.
For me, what's been really interesting is with what we do with the NGO that I run is that now there's a coordination in the leadership of the NGO. At the beginning, I was alone, and then there's a small group of people. There's 4 of us, and we've been able to go much further with this group, with different skills and different experiences also prior to this, because there's only a certain step that you can reach by your own in a way, or even if there's a team working with you, but at some point you need other mindsets and you need other skills to complement your own so that you can go really one step further. And that's been the very interesting experience that I've had over the last 3-4 years, that this has really structured itself where in the NGO where I work, where there's this group of people that it's managing the NGOs with different backgrounds and different skills. And we've really taken a huge leap in the capacity to actually deliver things and make things happen. And yeah, that's a really interesting experience. And then on the fact of not being successful in something, there's one 10 years back we were convinced that it would be of interest to develop an app that would enable people where we were working to know everything that was going on around them. And we spent a lot of time and quite some money on it, and it never picked up. And at the time, I really felt it was a big failure, not to have put all this money and all this energy into that and not succeeding. And then I realized that through this failure, I had understood how this area was working, what were the expectations of the people, and therefore afterwards we were able to set up 2 or 3 projects that were really more relevant and really successful, because they were actually much less costlier, but that really reached quite a big impact because we took the lessons from that failure. And therefore it was somehow a failure, but on the global picture, it really also brought out a lot of good afterwards. So I really feel it's completely okay sometimes if the reality of situations is not what you expect. What makes a big difference is how you look at it, and instead of punishing yourself for what you think is a failure, if you can still draw something from that enables things to be smoother the next time or to be more useful the next time.
Should we ask a question ourselves as well? Is it a good time now?
Yeah.
Can I go first, or we each had questions for each other as well, right? Okay. Okay, can I start? Okay. If you woke up tomorrow and you were 18 years old, what would you do to have a greater positive impact on the world or on your world? I'm personally very curious about this question. I'm very selfish. I came all the way here to this part of France to come and ask you this question and learn from the answer myself.
For me, I think it comes back a little bit to what I was saying before. I think I would feel less obliged to do some things, and that would enable me. I would enable myself to take things easier, not to put too much pressure on myself, but also to dare a little bit more and to trust a little bit more the things that my gut feeling, basically, and just go and try things out. But it's okay. I'm really happy of those last years. I think most of it, I would keep it the same, but maybe a little bit more craziness and a little bit more gut feeling.
It takes time to develop the trust. Huh? Yeah. It just takes time.
That's an interesting question. For me, it's not going back to when I was 18, because I feel that, I'm not that I'm happy, but I feel that up until I was maybe 25, 27, I was doing my best, and I was very connected to how I felt. I was connected to opportunities. I was bold. I was trying things. So 18 was fine for me. But I think, after a few years, if I take the present time, like, what could I do now to be more impactful? I mean, maybe I think I would connect with people who are like-minded more. Because, when you start working, then you don't have that many hours to also be involved in other projects. And sometimes, for me at least, I felt a bit, I wish I could do more, or there's a project going on, and I was, I wish I could be involved. But after a day of work, then you're tired. And so, yeah, if I had to change something, maybe I would try to be involved with other people, like-minded people, and be more involved in other projects, like side projects. But in terms of like professional projects, I feel I'm at the right place I'm supposed to be. So I don't know how to answer that question without sounding like so privileged. No, but yeah, just
Was
find
the last
like-minded
piece of
people.
advice, sorry, I got distracted for a second, not to get isolated? Is that what you said?
Find like-minded people, find community in terms of, you're basically already a community in the sense that, you decided to come here, you see each other throughout the year, you have projects already together. That's what this place is about also, is everyone who comes here, they're involved in different projects, they are interested in the same project. So definitely keep doing that. Basically, just find a community in the sense of people who think or like the same things, and also who bring you motivation and energy to get involved and do things.
If I can also give my own answer for whoever finds it useful.
Definitely, we're very interested now.
My answer would be, what I would do differently would be to sleep more.
Sleep more. I wanted to say that, but then I thought, oh my god, I'm going to sound like
Boring.
boring and
I'm
old.
29 now. Is this was this my first year, last year to be able to participate? I'm 29 now. Okay. I'm 29 now. I feel like I learned how to sleep last year.
Oh.
I think I was never before really intentional about having good sleep. Having dinner a few hours in advance before 4 hours at least before you go to bed. No screens. We've heard it a million times. We think it doesn't apply to us. We still scroll 15 minutes before going to bed. Yeah, many of these things, what you're eating, breathing, relaxing before, avoiding alcohol, of course. Sometimes I think we're not having the impact that we want to have, and it's because we're not having a good night's sleep.
This is something I wanted to say, that not just the sleep, but I was like, okay, maybe I should focus on like technical skills or professional things. But my honest answer to that question would be to take care of your bodies and your health. Because I remember in my 20s, like I would hurt myself and I was like, oh, it's gonna pass. And it usually did, until I injured myself quite badly and I did what I used to do. So I just waited and it never came back to the way it was. And it still impacts my health to that day. So, and that, like, you live in your body every day. So if your body, you know, is weak or tired or sick all the time, then definitely it's a big obstacle to having an impact. So yeah, actually my real answer is to take care of your bodies. And it starts from a young age. And when you're in your 20s, you don't realize, you don't think, you know, that's about you, or you don't think that you're, you don't realize how much the body can get weak fast. Well, there was one question that was interesting. I don't know how much time we have.
That's okay.
Yeah? Because that question, so we talked about impact and having meaningful impact and everything. And then a question would be, but can we really change the world?
Can we open it to the floor already, or?
Yeah. Do you think we can change the world? Do you think we can change the world? Anyone? We know.
Les petits ruisseaux font les grandes rivières. I don't know how to say it in English. The small
streams make the big rivers.
Yes.
The small streams make the big rivers. Which means, for you?
Which means whatever action we do, it has an impact. So, of course, we change the world constantly on small and bigger levels. And I don't remember in which country this animal is, but there is also this bird. But yes, I don't remember where, that when there's a fire, incendie, that comes back and forth with a little drop of water for the fire. So yes, and in AMA programs also, everyone does a little part, but that's how such a huge event can happen.
Anyone else? Sasha?
I think we can, definitely, because, for example, if you want to build a, I don't know, business for helping the environment or just an organization, maybe you start with 1 or 2 people, then you start talking about it to other people, to friends, or you just start doing social media, posting some things about it, and then more and more people join, and it starts to grow, and then it becomes a big organization. And I think, or it doesn't even have to be that big. It can also be a small thing you do, and I think we definitely can change.
One other input from the crowd?
I think in my mind, the question I always have is not, can I change the world? Is, do we have to do it? Why do we always have this desire? Or where do you get this idea that you have to change something and that there are things that are better than others, that you are having a positive impact? How do you assess these kind of things? Because sometimes it's hard, because when you go through suffering, then it helps you. Sometimes you go through something comfortable and it doesn't help you. So how can you know that what you're doing is actually helpful? Except for yourself, because then you get happiness for you, so it's okay. But for others, how do you know that you're really helping them?
No, I like the part of your question that, like, your question involves that you're have some self-awareness, or try to have some self-awareness about your actions, and you're not, you don't think, oh, I have the truth and my way is the way. That's part of your question. Like, how do we know that what we do is good, right? This is what you said. I think that's a good it's a good feeling. It's a good thing, actually, to question yourself, because nobody holds the truth, and truth can be different for different people at different place on earth, and what's good or what's positive for people can be different, and yeah, look like different things. So it's good to not feel that you want to press things on people, or to force things onto people. That's definitely something paramount. I would go back to also, Amma, what she says about the suffering. You look at somebody who's suffering, then it's kind of your duty to help that person. So I think that's a good way to sort of, how do you say, it's a good measure. It's a good unit of measure, I would say. Like, if I can have a positive impact in somebody's life, or if I can alleviate some suffering, then I'm in the good direction. I'm heading to the good direction. I don't know if that answers your question, or no, I mean, not that I want to answer your question, but I don't know if it's connected to what you said. I don't think that I measure necessarily, but I feel that for me, in my work, for instance, personally, I would measure myself like this, like, oh, if there's something, there's some suffering, maybe I can do something about it. But it's my personal thing. Professionally, because of the area I work in, we work and we base ourselves on, human rights declarations. We work with treaties, international treaties. That's a good way also to measure the sort of objectives that we want to strive for. So this is different answers to that question, but I would say, yeah, is there some suffering? Can I do something about it? That would be a measure.
Thank you, and thank you for the question. I completely agree with the other reactions, but I agree with you. It's very difficult. I'll give you my professional, polished answer in a moment, but I agree it's very difficult to alleviate a pain that you're not suffering yourself. So I think the easy way to change the world is to change your world, like Devapriyan did, by changing the, or creating opportunities in the part of the city where he grew up, where he felt that there was not enough community and not enough connection. I did the same. I started this urban gardening company because I felt lonely, and I found out that community gardens were a great excuse to hang out with other people. And I also didn't have a car, so I couldn't drive all the way to the outskirts of the city where I could actually grow my own food. So I thought I want to do it in my rooftop. That's my own pain, so to speak. I grew up in the city. I don't know how it is like to grow vegetables. It's very sad. I want to solve that problem for myself. Turns out perhaps many other people have the same thing. But if you want to really measure and know for sure, then you should put numbers on your impact. How many people have answered yes to the question, has your life improved thanks to taking part in this program or thanks to buying this product? How many square meters of land that was dead and covered in concrete, for instance, have been regenerated? If you really want to know and really want to be serious about whether you're actually making a positive impact or not, usually the answer is to put numbers to it, which most NGOs won't do, and most businesses will do, to put numbers to everything.
And be serious about it. And be serious about asking the question and getting numbers, because I know a lot of people who put numbers, but numbers can say anything you want if you take them in the correct way. And if you decide that you want to show this reality, you can find a way to show this reality. So it's also about the place of sincerity within yourself, that you want to check that I think the intention from the start is very important. Where does the intention come from? Are you acting because you think it's going to please someone else? Are you acting because you feel you have to do something? Or are you acting because you sincerely want to improve the situation for someone? And then how do you keep that intention alive? How do you stay sure that you're still acting because you want to help people and not because suddenly people start getting interested in what you're doing and you start having a glory and you start having a fame and you start having rewards about that, or you start earning money because of that and you're sticking to that money and that fame instead of the intention you had in the beginning. For me, that's the best for on a personal standpoint. That's the best safeguard you can find, is to fine tune again and again and again your intention, because all the other things, they can be twisted in a way or another. And then regarding Julia's initial question, what came to me when I was listening to you is, for me, and especially now, I think since a few years, it's impossible for anybody to pretend change the world, because the world is crazy and turning craziest every day. When you open your phone, is like, wow, we've reached another level. But definitely, I'm 100% personally convinced from my own experience that you can do good. And I'm 100% convinced that when you do good, you feel much, much, much better about yourself and about the world. And I've kind of taken this resolve of doing as much good as I can, which sometimes means not doing for others and taking sometimes also to just feel at ease with myself, because unless I do this anyways, I will make nonsense. So, but this resolve to use all my time to, as much as possible, do good, because that's a contribution, and then that's a way to feel much better about myself also. So
I think that may be a great way to close this space, perhaps.
Anything else? We've gone over time for about 15 minutes already, so that's probably a good time. Okay, so thank you so much. We are moving so thank you so much for making all the way, Julia from Montpellier, Nico from Bordeaux and Amsterdam, and taking this precious time between Christmas and New Year, not to party, but to be with us to think about the things. And thank you so much, all of you, for being here and being present and taking part in the discussion also. And we're now moving one step further. So we're going to move into small breakout groups so that we can discuss a little bit more intimately about these subjects. But before doing so, we're going to say goodbye to our online friends. Thank you so much for joining us also, and wish you all the best for the end of the year. Thank you so much. Thank you, and follow up for us.